A study by Northwestern Mutual found that 22% of Americans have less than $5,000 saved for retirement. But that's not the number that stops me. The number that stops me is this. The average American spends 11 years of their life working specifically to pay off debt, not building wealth, not investing, not saving for the future, just clawing back to zero. 11 years. Now, picture someone, let's call her Maya, 29 years old, decent job, makes $58,000 a year. She's not reckless. She tracks her spending loosely. She tells herself she'll start investing when the budget is under control. But the budget never quite gets under control. There's always something, a car repair, a birthday trip, a slow month. And so the investing keeps getting pushed to some imaginary future moment where everything lines up perfectly. Meanwhile, every month that passes without investing is a month of compound growth she'll never get back. Here's the trap Maya is stuck in, and maybe you recognize it too. She believes budgeting and investing are two separate phases. First, you fix the budget, then you invest, one after the other. But that's not how wealth is actually built. The people who figure this out early realize something that changes everything. Budgeting and investing aren't two separate phases, they're one integrated system, and you can run both simultaneously starting today with whatever you have right now. Let me show you what the sequential thinking trap actually costs. If Maya waits just 2 years to start investing, just 24 months while she gets her budget right, here's what that delay costs her at a historical 8% average market return, assuming she invests $300 a month from age 31 instead of 29. She loses approximately $47,000 in final portfolio value by retirement from a 2-year delay on $300 a month. That's not a number on a spreadsheet. That's a car. That's a year of living expenses in retirement. That's options she won't have. And here's what makes this genuinely frustrating. Most personal finance content reinforces this sequential thinking. The budgeting videos say get your spending under control first. The investing videos assume you already have surplus cash. There's an enormous gap in the middle where real people actually live. People who have some money, some debt, some goals, and no clear map for how to run all of it at once. That gap is what today's video is designed to fill. Because the truth is, and I want to say this clearly, you do not need a perfect budget to start investing. You need a functional system that handles both at the same time, automatically, with enough flexibility to survive real life. My name is Alex, and I spend a lot of time thinking about money, investing, and why most people struggle financially without ever realizing why. Today, I'm going to show you a beginner blueprint for running your budget and your investments simultaneously. Not someday, not when things settle down, but right now. The reason most people can't seem to do both at once isn't discipline, it isn't income, it's architecture. Their financial life has no structure. Money comes in, sits in one account, gets spent in roughly the right categories if they remember to track it, and whatever survives to the end of the month might get saved. Investing is an afterthought, something that happens with leftovers, if there are leftovers. This is called a single bucket system, and it fails for the same reason a kitchen with no organization fails. When everything is in one place, nothing has a clear purpose, and the path of least resistance always wins. The path of least resistance is spending. The fix isn't more discipline. The fix is a multi-bucket architecture, a deliberate system where money is separated for purpose the moment it arrives, before any decision-making is required. Here's where it gets interesting. When your investment money never sits in the same account as your spending money, you don't experience the psychological cost of choosing not to spend it. It was never available for spending. The decision was made once at the system level, not every single day through willpower. This is the foundational principle behind everything I'm going to show you today. Before we build the system, I need to briefly explain why traditional budgeting fails most people, because understanding the failure mode helps you avoid it. The classic budgeting approach goes like this: track every dollar, assign categories, stay within limits, review monthly. It sounds logical, and in theory it is. The problem is that it requires continuous active decision-making. Every purchase is a small test of willpower. Every month is a fresh attempt to override habits that have been built over years. And research in behavioral economics, particularly work building on Daniel Kahneman's Nobel Prize-winning findings, consistently shows that decision fatigue is real. The more decisions you make, the worse your subsequent decisions become. A budget that requires you to make dozens of micro-decisions every week is a budget that depends on a finite resource, your mental energy. And that resource runs out. This is why most people who try budgeting quit within 90 days. Not because they're disciplined, because the system demands more than human psychology can reliably deliver. The solution isn't to try harder. The solution is to need fewer decisions. There's a framework that solves both problems simultaneously. It handles budgeting and investing within a single structure, requires almost no ongoing willpower, and is flexible enough to work at virtually any income level. It has 3 moving parts: a spending account, a safety account, and a growth account. Every dollar that enters your financial life gets assigned to one of these 3 buckets immediately, automatically, before you have any chance to spend it by default. Let me build each one out. The first bucket is your spending account. This is your regular checking account, the one connected to your debit card, your bill payments, your daily life. But here's the critical difference from how most people use it. This account receives only the money allocated for spending, nothing more. The allocation that works as a starting framework is this: 70% of your take-home income goes into the spending bucket. That covers rent, groceries, utilities, transportation, subscriptions, entertainment, everything that makes up your actual life. If 70% feels tight, we'll address that. But for now, set 70% as the target. On a $4,000 monthly take-home, that's $2,800 for your entire life. That is a real constraint, and that constraint is the budget. Not a spreadsheet you maintain, but a hard structural limit defined by what lands in the account. The second bucket is your safety account. This is a high-yield savings account, completely separate bank if possible, no debit card attached. 10% of your take-home income goes here automatically every pay cycle, before you see it. On that same $4,000, that's $400 a month. This account builds your emergency fund first, targeting 3 to 6 months of expenses. Once that target is hit, the 10% overflow redirects to a medium-term savings goal, a down payment, a car replacement fund, a career investment. The safety bucket never stops filling. It just changes what it's filling toward. And here is where most people go wrong. They treat the safety bucket as optional, as the first thing to pause when money gets tight. But this is exactly backwards. The safety bucket is what prevents financial emergencies from destroying your progress. It is not the luxury, it is the foundation. The third bucket is your growth account. This is your investment account, a brokerage, a Roth IRA, a 401k, or some combination. 20% of your take-home income goes here automatically every pay cycle, before you get a chance to spend it. On that same $4,000, that's $800 a month directed toward long-term wealth building. Now, I know what you're thinking. 20% is aggressive, especially if you're carrying debt or have a tight budget. And you're right, the 70-10-20 split is a target framework, not a rigid rule. If you can only do 70-10-10 right now, that's still a functioning system. If you can only manage 80-10-10, start there. The architecture matters more than the exact percentages in the beginning. But here's the thing about the 20% growth bucket. Once it's automated, it disappears from your psychology. It becomes like a tax. You never had it, you don't miss it, and it builds silently in the background while your daily life runs on the spending account. That invisibility is the entire psychological advantage of the system. Let me make this concrete with Maya's actual numbers. Maya earns $58,000 a year. After taxes in a moderate state, her take-home is approximately $3,900 a month. Under the 70-10-20 framework, $2,730 goes to her spending account each month, $390 to her safety account, $780 to her growth account. She opens a Roth IRA. She's within the income limit, and the tax-free growth benefit is significant at her age. Inside the Roth, she buys a single S&P 500 index fund, VOO or FXAIX or the Vanguard equivalent. She sets up an automatic monthly purchase of $780 on the 2nd of every month, the day after her paycheck lands.
She opens a high-yield savings account at a separate institution, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally, or SoFi all currently offer rates well above traditional banks. The $390 transfers automatically on the same day as the investment. Her checking account receives $2,730. That is her budget. She does not track every dollar obsessively. She simply checks her checking account balance once a week. If it's on track, she's on track. If it's running low 2 weeks before payday, she adjusts that week's discretionary spending. That's the entire budgeting system. And here's where it gets powerful. At $780 a month invested from age 29 at an 8% historical average annual return, Maya's portfolio at age 65 is approximately $2.4 million. From $780 starting at 29,
with a system that took one afternoon to set up. She doesn't need a financial advisor. She doesn't need to understand options trading or earnings calls or macroeconomic policy. She needs 3 accounts, 3 automatic transfers, and 1 index fund. But here's the deeper truth about why this system works when raw discipline doesn't. It removes the daily war between your present self and your future self. Every financial system that depends on willpower sets up that war. Every day, your present self, who wants coffee and convenience and comfort right now, has to fight your future self, who wants financial security in 30 years. And present self wins that fight most days. It's supposed to. We're wired for immediate reward. The 3-bucket system ends that war by making the decision once. Your future self gets the money before your present self ever sees it. There's nothing to fight over. Present self gets $2,730 and operates freely within that boundary. Future self gets $780 and never has to ask for it. This is what behavioral economists call pre-commitment, and it is one of the most powerful tools in personal finance, not because it makes you smarter, because it removes the need to be. Here's what I want to leave you with. The idea that you need to choose between budgeting and investing, that one comes before the other, is one of the most expensive myths in personal finance. It keeps people in a permanent state of getting ready to start. And getting ready to start is the most costly place to live financially. The 3-bucket system doesn't require you to be perfect. It doesn't require you to have surplus cash. It requires you to redesign the architecture of how money moves through your life once so that the right things happen automatically and the wrong things require effort. Start with whatever percentages work right now, 80-10-10, even 85-10-5. The exact split matters far less than the structure itself. You can refine the percentages over time as your income grows and your expenses evolve. But build the structure today. Because 10 years from now, the person who built an imperfect system in their late 20s and stuck with it will be in a completely different financial position than the person who waited for the perfect moment to start. There is no perfect moment. There is only the architecture you build and the time you give it to work. The people who figure this out don't stress about money the same way anymore, not because they earn more, because they designed a life where the most important financial decisions were already made before the month even started.